Welcome back to Through the Fire, the podcast where we explore the challenges that test us, shape us, and ultimately transform us. I'm your host, Ariana.
And I'm Travis. It's great to be with you all again. In our last episodes, we've been talking a lot about this idea of walking through the fire. We explored the intense heat of burnout and how to find your way back from the brink.
And we walked through the fire of failure, learning that stumbling isn't the end, but often the beginning of our most profound growth.
Exactly. But today we're stepping into a different kind of fire. This one is often invisible. It's a slow, quiet burn that millions of men experience every single day, often in complete silence. We're talking about the immense pressure of traditional masculinity.
That's right. The expectation to be tough, to be stoic, to be the unbreakable rock for everyone else. And we want to be clear from the start. This conversation isn't about criticizing men or masculinity. It's about understanding the invisible cage that these expectations can build and exploring how we can find freedom from it.
It's about liberation, really. Freeing men from a script they never auditioned for but were forced to perform. It's about creating a space for a more authentic, healthier way of being.
Beautifully said. Today, we're unmasking masculinity, the expectations, the silence, and the strength that comes when men embrace authenticity.
So let's start with that mask. Where does it even come from? I think for most men, it's forged in boyhood with just a few simple, powerful words. Phrases like, don't cry, man up, big boys don't get scared.
Right. It starts so incredibly young. Before boys even have the language to understand what they're feeling, they're being taught which feelings are acceptable and which ones are not.
Absolutely. And it's not always malicious. Often it comes from fathers and grandfathers who were taught the exact same thing. It's a generational handover of an emotional rule book. I can speak from my own experience. Growing up, strength was synonymous with silence. My father was a man of few words, especially about his feelings. He showed love through action, working hard, providing for us. But vulnerability, that was a foreign language.
Yeah, providing was the emotional expression.
It was. And because of that, I learned that being a man meant you handle your problems on your own. You don't burden others. You are the rock, and rocks don't feel pain, or at least they certainly don't show it. It took me years, well into my adult life, to even begin to unlearn that. I remember one time my business was going through a really rough patch. I was on the verge of losing everything I'd worked for. The stress was immense. I was having trouble sleeping. I was irritable all the time. But did I tell anyone? Of course not. I was the man of the house, a leader, a provider. I had to be strong. So I kept it all inside. I put on a brave face for my wife, for my kids, for my employees. I was a pressure cooker, and the lid was about to blow. And it did. I had a full-blown panic attack in my car one day. I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing. I thought I was dying. And in that moment, I realized that my silence was literally killing me. That was my rock bottom. That was the moment I knew I had to change. I started therapy. I started talking to my wife about my fears. I started being honest with myself and with the people around me. And it was the hardest and most rewarding thing I've ever done. It was like learning a new language, the language of emotional honesty. And what I found was that the people in my life didn't want me to be a rock. They wanted me to be a human being. They wanted to connect with me, to support me, to love me for who I am, not for who I was pretending to be. And that's the great irony. The very thing I thought would make me weak, the vulnerability, was the thing it ultimately made me stronger. It made my marriage stronger.
It made my relationship with my kids stronger. It made me a better leader, a better man. And that's why I'm so passionate about this topic. Because I know there's so many men out there who are living in the same prison of silence that I was in. And I want them to know that there is a way out. There is a better way to be a man. A way that is based on authenticity, on connection, on courage. The courage to be yourself.
And I've seen that from the other side with the men in my life. My father, my brothers. There was this unspoken understanding that certain emotions were just off limits. Sadness often got channeled into anger because anger felt active and strong. Fear was reframed as a challenge. There was always a way to translate a vulnerable feeling into something more masculine.
That's such a critical point. Anger is often the only permissible negative emotion for men. It's seen as powerful. So instead of saying I'm hurt or I'm scared, it comes out as frustration or rage. This emotional funneling is so limiting and so destructive.
So, how do those messages, that programming from childhood, shape men's emotional health today? We're in a world that is increasingly asking for emotional intelligence, for connection, for vulnerability in relationships. How does that old programming clash with modern expectations?
It creates an immense internal conflict. It's like you spent your entire life learning to build an emotional fortress, meticulously reinforcing the walls, and then suddenly the person you love most is at the gate asking you to lower the drawbridge. You don't even know where the mechanism is.
Wow, what a powerful metaphor. You don't know where the mechanism is.
Right. The impulse is to see their request for vulnerability as an attack on the fortress itself. It feels threatening. So men often double down, retreat, or get defensive, not because they don't want to connect, but because they literally haven't been given the tools to. The mask becomes so fused to the face, they forget it's even there.
And that fortress, that mask, it comes at an extraordinarily high cost. It's not just about relationships, it's about a man's own internal world. What happens when you're taught that half of the human emotional spectrum is forbidden territory?
The cost is immense. First and foremost, it's profoundly isolating. You feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, completely alone, because the very act of asking for help is framed as a personal failure. So you struggle in silence. This can manifest as anxiety, as depression, as a constant low-grade anger at the world.
Right. And this isolation leads to some truly devastating outcomes. We can't talk about this without acknowledging the statistics on men's mental health. According to the World Health Organization, while depression is more commonly diagnosed in women, men die by self-unaliving at a rate 3 to 4 times higher in many countries around the world.
That number is just staggering, and it speaks directly to this issue. It suggests that men are suffering deeply, but they aren't reaching out for help. The pain becomes so unbearable that ending it feels like the only option. It is the tragic ultimate consequence of emotional suppression. And it's not just unaliving. Men are also more likely to suffer from substance abuse, to engage in risky behaviors, to be victims of violence. It's a public health crisis that we are not talking about enough. And it all comes back to this idea that men have to be tough, that they can't show weakness. So instead of seeking help, they self-medicate with alcohol or drugs, they channel their pain into anger and aggression, they isolate themselves, and the consequences are devastating. We're losing our fathers, our sons, our brothers, our friends, and for what? So they can live up to some outdated, toxic ideal of masculinity? It's madness, and we have to do better. We have to create a culture where it's okay for men to be vulnerable, where they can seek help without shame, where they can be their full, authentic selves. We need to teach our boys that strength is not about being invincible, it's about being resilient. It's about being able to fall down and get back up again. It's about being able to ask for help when you need it. That's true strength. And we need to support the organizations that are doing this work, the crisis hotlines, the mental health clinics, the men's groups. They are on the front lines of this battle and they need our help. This is not a problem that we can afford to ignore anymore. The stakes are too high. We are literally losing a generation of men, and we have to do everything in our power to stop it.
Mhm. And beyond mental health, it has a profound effect on physical well-being. The chronic stress of holding everything in, of constantly being on guard, contributes to high blood pressure, heart disease. The body keeps the score. You can't just will emotions away. They manifest physically.
That's it. You can't. They go somewhere. This is why our key insight for this section feels so vital. Suppressing emotion doesn't make men stronger. It makes the fire burn silently inside. It's a corrosive force that eats away at your spirit, your health, and your relationships. It's a lonely, painful way to live.
It seems like such a paradox. The very thing men are taught to do to be strong is the thing that is ultimately making them sick and isolated. It's a broken definition of strength.
Completely broken. The mask that's supposed to protect you ends up becoming your prison. So if that definition is broken, what's the alternative? We have to redefine strength. We have to build a new model from the ground up.
What does that new model look like?
I believe real strength isn't about being impervious to emotion. It's about having the courage to engage with it. True strength is honesty. It's the emotional courage to look in the mirror and admit, I'm not okay today, or to turn to a partner and say, I'm scared. Frankly, that takes infinitely more guts than pretending everything is fine.
I love that strength as honesty. So what does healthy masculinity, this new model, look like in action?
It looks like a man who can be a confident leader at work and also a gentle, empathetic father at home. It's someone who can solve a complex problem and also sit and listen to a friend's heartbreak without trying to fix it. It's about integration. It's not being either strong or soft. It's the strength in the softness.
That integration is key. So let's talk about vulnerability. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and for many men, it can sound terrifying. What does vulnerability look like in real life for men, in a practical sense?
That's a great question because it's often misunderstood. Vulnerability isn't weakness, and it isn't oversharing your deepest secrets with everyone you meet. It's about letting your authentic self be seen by people who have earned your trust. It could be as simple as telling your partner, I felt really insecure in that meeting today. It's about replacing performance with presence.
Presence, not performance. That's powerful. And this brings up a crucial question for our listeners, especially the women. How can women support the men in their lives, their partners, sons, friends, to open up safely?
This is so important. The number one thing is to create a judgment-free zone. When a man takes the risk to be vulnerable, the absolute worst thing you can do is use it against him later or immediately jump into fix-it mode.
Instead of, you should do this, or why didn't you?
Exactly. That immediately puts the armor back on. The most powerful response is simply to listen and validate. Phrases like, thank you for telling me that, or that sounds really hard, are invitations to go deeper. You're signaling that this is a safe harbor.
It's about creating safety for that drawbridge to be lowered. And what does it mean to lead with heart? You mentioned that a moment ago.
Leading with heart is about bringing your full humanity into every role you play. As a leader, it means caring about your team's well-being, not just their output. As a father, it means connecting with your children's emotions, not just providing for their material needs. It's leadership that is rooted in empathy, compassion, and authentic connection. That, to me, is the new pinnacle of masculine strength.
Okay, so we've talked about the mask, the cost, and a new vision for strength. Let's make this really practical. For anyone listening right now, man or woman, who wants to help dismantle this outdated structure, what are some tangible tools for unmasking?
The first and fundamental tool is emotional literacy, simply learning to identify and name what you're feeling. A great exercise is just to pause a few times a day and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now?
Is it anger? Or is it actually disappointment? Is it stress? Or is it fear? Getting specific gives you power over the emotion instead of it having power over you.
That's huge. Giving it a name makes it less of a scary, ambiguous cloud. Okay, what's next?
The second tool is to intentionally build safe spaces. For man, this means cultivating friendships that go beyond sports and surface-level topics. It means finding that one friend or a group of friends where it's okay to not be okay. This could also mean seeking out a men's group or, of course, professional therapy. Normalizing these conversations is the goal.
And for everyone listening, a third tool is to gently challenge outdated beliefs when you encounter them. If you hear someone say, "A man's gotta be tough," you can offer a different perspective, like, "I think it's even tougher to be honest about how you feel. It's not about being confrontational, but about planting seeds for a new way of thinking. Strength isn't silence." And there are so many opportunities to do this in our daily lives. At the dinner table, with our families, in the break room at work, with our friends at a barbecue. These conversations don't have to be heavy or preachy. They can be as simple as asking a question. "Why do you think that is?" Or, "I wonder if there's another way to look at it." The goal is to open up a space for dialogue, for reflection, to get people to think about the unexamined beliefs they hold about masculinity. And we can also do this through the media we consume and create. We can support movies and TV shows that offer a more expansive vision of what it means to be a man. We can share articles and podcasts that challenge the status quo. We can use our own platforms, whether they're big or small, to amplify a different message. A message of hope, of possibility, of a new way of being. And for the women listening, we have a particularly important role to play. We can create a safe space for the men in our lives to be vulnerable. We can listen without judgment. We can offer our support and our love. We can be a soft place to land in a world that is so often hard and unforgiving. This is not about fixing men. It's about loving them enough to want them to be free, free from the chains of outdated expectations, free to be their whole, beautiful, messy human selves. That's the world I want to live in. And I believe that together, one conversation at a time, we can create it.
I love that. A gentle challenge. And finally, a fourth tool is to model vulnerability yourself. Change happens when we see it in others. You don't have to start by sharing your deepest trauma. Start with small truths. Tell a friend, "I had a really stressful day at work and I'm feeling drained." That small act of openness creates a space for them to do the same. It's an invitation.
It really is. It shows that connection is a two-way street. These tools, emotional literacy, safe spaces, challenging beliefs, and modeling vulnerability, they aren't quick fixes, but they are the steady work of creating a healthier, more authentic world for everyone. It feels like we've walked through a really important fire today, Travis, sifting through the ashes of these old, restrictive ideas.
Absolutely. A fire that many people don't even realize is burning.
Before we wrap up here, I want to say that I know that some women may come for us in the comments. They will say things like, "Well, this is a two-way street, and men can do the same." Let's squash that right now. We realize that this can go both ways, but this particular episode is for the men. We will definitely have an episode for the ladies at a later time, so don't come for us in the comments. So, what's the takeaway from today's fire?
That real strength isn't about hiding the pain. It's about facing it. It's about having the courage to take off the mask and be seen for who you truly are, with all the complexities and emotions that make you human.
And remember, the fire doesn't break you, it makes you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Through the Fire. Don't forget to like this episode on your way out, and if you have not already done so, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, we don't want you to miss any future episodes. We really appreciate you being here. Be well, and we'll see you next week.